I first start working with authors, it's always it seems like a challenge for me to help them see the difference between a core message and a reader promise. And anytime I ask someone to tell me what their core message is, they will usually tell me something like a reader promise. There's also a difference between a reader promise and benefits. A reader promise is like a main type of thing. A benefit is something you'll get from the book, but it's not necessarily the whole purpose of the book for the reader. So let me go through just a couple of things with that. So the reader promise completes the sentence. If you read this book, then by the end, you will know, have, be able to blank. It makes more sense in a nonfiction book, but I think it's worth thinking about in a fiction book, especially if you're wanting your fiction to inspire towards your philosophy of life. It's a contract. It's something that the reader needs to probably find out from the back cover of your book when they pick it up and look at it, and then you better deliver. My wife was reading a really well-known author recently that was recommended to her by somebody else, and it was pretty good, but then by the end of it, there was no point. It's the kind of book that you keep going, okay, this must be going somewhere because these are a lot of interesting points, but it never landed. Like she went away going, why did I even read that? If there was a reader promise, it wasn't fulfilled, and there may not have even been a reader promise. So the four elements of a powerful reader promise are first, specificity over vagueness. A weak reader promise would be you'll feel better about your life. A strong reader promise could be you'll know exactly how to forgive the person who hurt you most and find freedom from the bitterness. The second element would be transformation over information. Don't promise knowledge. You'll know about XYZ. Promise change if you can. So it's not you're going to understand prayer, but it's you will pray with confidence, knowing that God hears you, if that's what your book is about. The third one is emotion plus outcome. So combine the feeling with the result. So you'll stand before God one day hearing, well done, because you finally wrote the book he called you to write. That might be my reader promise for my book about writing a book. But there's emotion in that, and there's a specific outcome. And then there's immediate and an eternal. You want to think of those things. Bridge the practical and the profound. You'll sleep peacefully tonight and wake up tomorrow as someone who no longer fears what others think. That would be a that would be a great book to read if you could deliver freedom from fear of what people think. That's quite a reader promise. It's kind of interesting because I was talking with somebody yesterday. Um, Actually, it was Kelly in this class. He's local, and we were actually getting coffee. Uh, Anybody that wants to come to Normal and have coffee with me, just let me know. I'll make time. Um, but we were talking about something that the temptation was to be like, well, I guess if you have an eternal perspective, you don't really have to worry about that, on Earth. And he was sounded like the temptation there is to compromise the immediate for the eternal in a way that gets you out of having to deal with the immediate. You ever done that? And your book could do that too, but you want to be able to offer, hey, this thing is good for this life and more importantly, the next. But it's hard to think of something that's really important for the next that's not going to deeply impact this life. We Christians, we try to hold those things in tension all the time, the already not yet, the eternal life that we're already living. And so you want your reader promise to fit into that category. So later on, we're not going to do it now, but I want you to write 3 versions at some point of your reader promise of the book, one of the books you're working on, or a book you might like to work on. There's the practical version, what they're going to do. There's the emotional version, what they're going to feel if they read your book. And then there's the eternal version, what they're going to become. And then once you write those 3 things, combine them and take like 10 tries at it until you get a good one, combination of all those things.